Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to check today's video out. Guys, going to give you a complete little seminar, little wrap up on how exactly I caught my fish at the Toyota Series Championship this past week down at Lake Wheeler. I just got back like at 2:30 in the morning last night, and if you saw the video I did yesterday, I had did a very stupid thing. It's like the first day of the tournament, I was sitting in pretty good place, a pretty good position. I had 11 pounds, 9 ounces. And then the second day of the tournament, if you didn't see my video, I caught a lot better bag. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm running back to weigh in. I knew I'm gonna get a really good check in the tournament. And to make a long story short, I stopped to fish a place with about 15 minutes left, and I couldn't get my big motor cranked. And I was late to weigh in. I'll tell you the story a little bit later, but I had to throw all my fish back. I had a 5-pounder and a good limit with it. Would have finished high in the tournament. But due to some unforeseen situations, I couldn't make it in. We'll talk about that a little bit in the video. But anyway, I want to talk to you guys about how I caught all my fish, how I found them, how I caught them. And I think this is going to really be some good information for you guys as far as maybe learning from, how I caught them in this tournament. I think it's going to help you guys out down the road. Also, guys, just a quick reminder, just like to invite everybody to please subscribe here to Intuitive Angling if you like the channel. One of the best things you can do is hit that subscribe button and hit that like button if you like the videos. It really pushes the channel out there. Really working hard to try to get to 150,000 subscribers right now. And it's sort of hard to do that because you guys know that I'm opinionated and I say something occasionally that makes people unsubscribe. So if you want to help out, just hit that subscribe button. So much appreciated there. Okay. A little bit of hey guys, have you ever had one of those weeks that nothing went right? This was sort of my Toyota Series deal. It's like on the trip down there, it's like my air conditioner quit working in the truck, in my old truck. So I had to drive for 550 miles with no AC because it was pretty hot. And I don't have a radio on my truck either. It quit working 10 years ago. So I, drove down there with the windows down for 500 miles. And then when I came back yesterday, after all that stuff that happened, my heater quit working because it got cold. So I drove 500 miles back with no heater in my truck because it was cold too with no radio. So that sort of was the gist of the whole week. But anyway, for the Toyota Series Championship at Wheeler, I only had 2 days to practice. You guys, they had a 4-day official practice, but I only got to practice 2 days. And the first day of practice, I fished up there by the Decatur Flats about over half the day, and didn't do anything at all. Just didn't catch anything up there. I was trying to catch those fish out on the flats and the grass and the stumps. Didn't work out. And then the second half of the day, I just piddled around and started junk fishing. And I was basically fishing, docks, lay down wood, riprap banks, rocky banks, anything that looked good. And I wound up catching a limit that weighed like 7 pounds my first day of practice, just junk fishing around crankbaits and jigs and that type of stuff. The second day of practice, I decided to go down to fish the Elk River down there on the lower end of the lake, and had a pretty good day. I could have had probably 14 or 15 pounds, and I caught everything that I was getting down there, guys. Most of them was on my Blaukat throwback jig. This was the exact setup I was using. This was a brown jig with orange strands and a brown Zoom super chunk, a brown Zoom big salty chunk on there. And I was pitching and flipping it on 25-pound test Seaguar and VizX line around shallow wood targets and docks in the river there. And also, guys, I'll link my Blaukat throwback jig in the description of this video if you guys would like to pick some up. Guys, Tackle Warehouse just got a big stock in, but living rubber jig, guys, this is the absolute best pitching and flipping jig in the market in America today. I'll link that in the description. But this was a setup, guys. 3/8 ounce, 3/8 and half. Actually, I use 2 different ones depending upon the wind. But the brown and orange with this brown chunk is a really good color. This is one of my favorite fall colors, guys. Water clarity down there in the Elk River where I was fishing was probably, I'm going to guess, anywhere between a foot to a foot and a half. So nice pitching and flipping stain. And just methodically working shoreline targets. Like I said, lay down logs, docks, whatever looked good. The better fish definitely came on some type of isolated wood target. So that was the plan. So anyway, I was pretty happy with that. But then I got looking at the tournament results that they had at Lake Wheeler from the past weekend, and they killed them. It took like 20 some pounds to win the tournament. There were several 20-pound stringers. And I felt that, you know, flipping the jig in Elk River, I didn't think there's any way I could do that for 3 days and have a chance to win. And I'm down there to win the tournament because it's the championship. So I was planning on fishing the Elk River the first day of the tournament. And that night after our registration, I said to myself, it's like, Randy, you're just kidding yourself. You can probably have a good tournament and make a check in the Elk River, but you're not going to win that tournament there. I told myself that. I said, you're going to have to figure out how to catch those big ones. So I knew that there's 2 areas on Wheeler that produce a lot of big fish, is either the Decatur Flats, some of the tail race stuff, or down the lake on the lower end of the lake. So I decided just to go practicing again on the Decatur Flats in an area of the flats that I didn't fish the first day. So the first day of the tournament, I went out there and I spent half the day on the Decatur Flats just looking around. And another one of the reasons last week sucked so bad is my front depth finder quit working. So I got out there in the flat in open water and I had no electronics. So I fished out there for over half a day, didn't do anything. So I said, I just need to go and try to catch a limit of fish so I'm not completely out of the ball game. And I started running some of that stuff that I hadn't practiced, and I got on a couple different stretches of Riprap bank. Now, this is what I wound up catching my fish on in the tournament. I'm going to explain to you a little bit. Most every fish I caught in this tournament came on Riprap bank, but there's a lot of stuff that went along with that. But anyway, the key on this thing, and I'll talk a little bit about, well, let me get in the second day, then I'll go into detail that. Okay, so anyway, I wound up catching a limit, 11 pounds, 9 ounces the first day of the tournament, basically cranking Riprap. The second day of the tournament, yesterday, I said, okay, I only did this Riprap cranking for probably 3 hours and caught a decent limit of fish. I'm sitting, pretty good in the tournament. So I said, if I did it all day long, maybe I can catch a good bag. So that was my plan, except I got down there that morning of the takeoff yesterday morning, and it's 20 minutes before blast off. And I said, I'm not going to win this tournament cranking Riprap. I've got to do something that I can catch a 20-pound bag of fish in, make the top 10 cut, and have a chance to win. So I decided to go practicing again, and I ran all the way down to the dam in the Vexus 1980, which was awesome. I'll tell you about that later, but I ran 60 miles from Ditto Landing down by the dam area, and I started fishing a top water, like a super spook and a Megabass Division 110 jerkbait, and I wound up fishing over half the day down there, and I jumped one off about 3.5 pounds on the Division 110. That's the only bite I had. So I decided the same thing. It's like, I've got to bail out. It's like, at least at this point, I've only got like 3 hours left to fish at the most, maybe 2.5. And I said, if I could just catch a limit, maybe I'll get a check in the tournament. So I ran up to my first riprap stretch that I was fishing there, and they were on it. They were biting when I got there. And this key, guys, on these ripraps, this is what I wanted to clue you in on my deal at Lake Wheeler, along with the baits I used here, is you had to have stretches of riprap where the bank that were deep water was right up against it. And there's a lot of riprap on Wheeler, but some of the areas, it's like there'll be miles and miles and miles of riprap, and it's flat, it's gradual sloping, but there's a couple key areas, and you only know this by fishing through them, where there was a sharp break off the riprap. And this one particular area, that's the way it was. There was a sharp break right off of it, and I was rotating 3 different baits with it. This Megabass MR Griffon right here. This is one of them right here. And guys, I'll link all these baits in my Tackle Warehouse description if you guys want to pick some up, because I know you will after I talk about this. This MR Griffon, guys, is an awesome riprap bait. It's one of the best riprap baits you'll ever fish. MR Griffon, and I started out fishing that MR Griffon a little bit shallower on the rocks, and I was catching them. And I made several passes with that. I rotated between the MR Griffon and the Megabass Z2, Super Z2. These 2 crankbaits, fishing them on a spinning rod with 8-pound test, Seaguar and VizX line, paralleling the banks with them along those steep areas. And then after I felt that I exhausted that 2 to 4 foot zone, I went to an old school. This is a 35, 40, it's probably a 40-year-old crankbait. This is an old Bagley DB3. And I could probe the deeper rocks. So after I hit the shallower rocks with the Megabass crankbaits, I moved up a little bit farther and made long parallel casts with the DB3 hitting sort of that, 4 to 8 foot zone with this particular bait. But these 3 baits right here were the key in the tournament. And like I said, I'll link every one of these in my Tackle Warehouse description, because guys, if you're fishing Riprap or Rocky Banks in the fall, you'll definitely want to have some of these baits. So anyway, get back to the story here. I told a little bit about this yesterday. Right off the bat, I caught 2 keepers, then I caught a big one. It was a big, I don't know how big it was, 4.5 or 5 pounds, but this particular fish, when it hit, I set the hook on it, on the, actually it was on the Super Z2, and it was fighting. It didn't feel like a bass. It felt like a catfish or a drum because it was spinning around like that, but you don't ever know. You got to play them out. So I fought this fish forever and finally get it up to the boat. And I still think it's like a catfish or a drum. And I get it up there and it's that big bass and it's hooked in the tail. It's just like he's been fighting. It's just fish is hooked in the tail, which is a legal catch because it's not a sight fish. Get it in the net and the hook falls out as soon as we get it in the net. So I got this toad fish there and wound up catching 3 or 4 more keepers. So I got a really good bag, and I've got a solid bag of fish. Going to get a good check in the tournament. Ran back to the weigh-in. If you guys didn't see the video yesterday, I stopped to hit a spot within sight of the weigh-in, and I had about 10 minutes left to fish, cranked up to go to weigh-in, make sure I was plenty early, and my battery wouldn't start. My battery wouldn't crank. I had a dead battery. Jacked around with it forever, couldn't get it started, missed the weigh-in. So about 20 minutes later, after I was already disqualified, my co-angler looks down, and I had accidentally tripped the kill switch when I stood up to fish. So that's what it was. It was just a kill switch. So my stupid oversight about not realizing I tripped my kill switch cost me thousands of dollars in the tournament. But regardless, guys, I still caught them pretty good in the tournament. That was the techniques that I was using. And really good fall time deal. I mean, you can't go wrong with fishing on a lake that's got lower water level, like Lake Wheeler did, or any lake in the country. You can't go wrong with little small crankbaits. And these two Megabass crankbaits, guys, are some of the best you'll ever find. MR Griffon, Super Z2. Just definitely want to have some for your arsenal. So again, I'll link everything in the description. Hope it helps you guys catch a few, and hope you'll remember if your motor is not starting to check your kill switch, because here's the problem, the reason I didn't do it, I was talking about, every time before when I tripped my kill switch, when you cranked your motor, it'd be dead. There would be nothing. And when I cranked the key on the boat, it would go like the battery was dead, because I've got a 150 this year, 150 Pro XS. So maybe that's something inside's different, but I didn't even think about that because I heard it trying to crank. So the idea that my kill switch wasn't on there never even crossed my mind. So whoever got the last place in the check in this tournament, you're welcome, because it was because I didn't have my kill switch plugged in. So anyway, hope you guys are well. We'll talk later.